Hey guys, sorry I had to cut the video just now. Excuse me. So I was saying this is actually the most time-consuming process is at this point. You really want to spend, if possible, you know, most of the hair guides not penetrating. For example, like this, these ones. Not that one, nothing else. So that's why focusing on one part and not care about the others for now is the way to do it, at least the way I did it. So like that, and then if you're like done with that one, you can just, you know, freeze. You know, definitely this is the part you really want to spend time the most. The two this is easy, and then this is the time-consuming part. You don't want to go too much. Also, try not to go less, because if you go too much, and then you're really like shooting yourself in the foot. Anyways, if you went too low, and then you'll realize, hey, there's no guide in anyway, so this is kind of like my idea is when you first started with a much lower count, like the 300 count, it's like you're planting, you're like, you know, doing, you know, like hand you know, putting the splines yourself, like hand putting the splines, like you know how the hair and fur workflow. But this is, of course, this is definitely faster, but problem, one of the I think the limitation is you can't you know, add, say for example, like this part is missing any guides, and but you know, just have to deal with some of the limitations. But anyways, say once we're, for example, let's just spend a few more minutes. I'm not going to spend too much time, but definitely worth spending time for, making sure of course nothing is going to be selected there, because everything else is frozen. But keep going, effect, so something like that, right? Okay, so let's just say that now you've seen that we can delete and stuff, and once we edited this 3K, now I am, like, you know, rendering the real thing, the last editing, which is in the viewport. I want to see 6,000, and then I'm rendering with 60,000. This is my render number, the render amount number. So this next is the last, and also remember this should be guides. Yes, let's just save this as a like 2. Okay, and then let's grow our last, and this will be 6. This will be same, and this will be 60,000. And now if you see, say for example, let's just hide that for now, and I want to show you guys. Let me see. Okay, still frozen, but that's what I'm trying to say. Oh, let me just also show you just real quick how this IK spline work. Takes time to get used to it, but once you do, it's actually pretty awesome. So see how It's not the easiest thing to control, but for like, you know, this detailing, it's perfect, because you want to see like, you know, some type of like a irregularity in the middle. Okay, so okay, this is the thing that I want to show you guys. You can still edit the bottom, and the top will, like, you know, it will conform to the editings. Okay, let's just I'm showing the end result, excuse me. So I'm showing 6,000 here, but if I edit for example, let's not, if I edit these, see how the purple, the light purple, the pinkish one is affected even when I cut. Okay, and even when I delete. So if I delete all this, I'm preparing to hit delete. Okay, and then okay, so it's from a distribution map is affecting this as well. But anyways, so there, unless if you want to like completely remove it, you have to paint it in your distribution map. But the guides is deleted, but the surrounding guides are taking control over those area. But okay, and this is how I do it. And then one point I wanna, so it's by, you know, like, you know, slowly building up, and try to, you know, the point is to really try to have all this like, you know, penetration, really build it from lower levels up, so you don't have to deal with so much for the more hair count. 1 second please. Where is that? Okay, because I'm not in guides, that's why I can't find them. Let's see if I select some of these and let's just unselect the areas that I don't need. Okay, and let's just hide this. Let's just oops. Let's just unhide everything else, unhide those area, and then hide this area. See, that's why if there's hide unselected or freeze unselected button, it's really useful. But okay, see how this is shorter cut, and like this area we still need to fix, but this shorter cut is respecting the edit below, which is this one, right? That's why from you know, you wanna like start with low, start with lowest and then lower. Don't want to jump too quick up to, like, you know, this point, because this point is, you know, like, you know, 60k, which okay, or like 6,000 in the viewport. 6k slash. Okay, so remember, my workflow at least is start low, and then say medium. You can break it even further, like say for example maybe 300, and then 1,000, then 3,000, and then but no need to go too far. And probably 6k is already, you know, it's already hard enough to edit. But definitely don't go first level and then go straight away to the render amount. It's gonna cost you so much all this penetrating issue. Okay, so this is my workflow that I just want to share. Definitely this is the I prefer this method, and there is limitation other than you can't add is actually, let me show you right now. Let me just save it real quick first. You cannot change this number actually, because once you done an edit on top, the bottom that you change, this edit will be confused. Okay, like for example, let me just real quick say for example I do like a cylinder, I don't know, whatever, and then let me just do like an edit, right, an edit on top of it. Okay, and then let's just say for example if I chamfer this or something, let's just do, okay, something like that for example, and then I go down one level below whatever I do the editing, and then I change for example the sides number, which will change the vertex order. That's what I'm trying to say. This will screw it up, this will screw this shape up. Okay, so let's just say I want to change the height segment. Say for example I want to change the height segment so that it's 6, one more division, but I want to keep all this. It don't work that way. Oh, okay, at least in the past it didn't work that way. So probably, oh, there you go, there you go. My point is, you can't change the vertex order, it will screw things up. See how this is, funky? See, it's already gone because this editing is done on a certain vertex number, and then it gets messed up by the number below it. Okay, so I think you know what I'm trying to say. Again, there's the cannot delete issue there. But so, for example, let me just show you very easily. Let's just here we done editing here, right? And then we should have, let's just change this and you will see. Let me just change this to, like, so for example, even like the slightest amount, like 330. Okay, see how, excuse me one second. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption just now. So I was saying, even changing it to the slightest amount, you will see that the guides above is messed up. See how this resets, because like for example these guides understand their 300 guide. This editing is performed on a 300 guides. Once it has some extra guides, it doesn't know what to do with the extra. That's what I'm trying to say. So if I pull this back to its whatever number it was, see how it's okay. So even if you change this, no matter go down, it's still messed up. You go up, it's also messed up. So this is also, I found, I encountered this limitation. So this is, I want to share it to you guys as well. And for example, I think if, say for example, I thought about, okay, what about if I say for example I need extra here, then let's give it a shot. I think the only way to do it is just to grow more hair. Okay, and then like here go maybe like 400 for example, and just hide that. So if it's 300, it's back to before, right? I had the others hidden, but say for example if you need more, then this is there you go, this is the only way to do it. And then of course once you have this and then say you edit whatever is necessary, right? This will be messed up, I think. Oh no, it doesn't. Oh, it does actually. it will change. I think it will mess up, so plan carefully. And also I thought about how did I found out that my okay, once when I say, for example, I was starting fresh, I started really low, and then I work my way up gradually, like this is 300, right? And then I work my way up to this point. How do I know I need my final hair number? Okay, so the way I found that out is by doing test render. If I open this one real quick and go back to where I was doing, I think slightly earlier. Okay, this one. Okay, so I was doing test render, and okay, so let's just, so at first I was trying like 30 grand. This is really obviously very early. What I want to know is only, do I have enough hair to cover the head, because I don't want like holes on my scalp. So I was like testing with 30K. I thought this was good enough. See how I started, like this is one of the earlier stages, but anyways, start slow, then slowly improving. Okay, and then I think in one of these I found 60. Perhaps I didn't save it, but let me see if I have that 60. Nope. Okay, so I guess when I was doing like test render, I realized, okay, I thought 30K was enough. Hey guys, sorry for the cut. So I was saying, I guess when I was doing the test render, I thought 30K was enough, but in the end I decided it was not. So I went with 60K final hair strand number. Okay, so so this is the way the workflow that I used. And let's just go back to the stand file, and you will see up to this point, right? Basically the same thing that I did, obviously with finesse, and time, and see how it still has some issues, but probably it doesn't show that. Okay, so anyways, with this angle it doesn't show that obvious, so yeah, but of course try. This is definitely this is faster still than planting spline one by one, and growing hair, like the regular hair and fur with the spline workflow, still faster. And once I'm done, once I'm happy with this shape, right? Okay, and then only at this point I know I'm gonna start doing cluster and stuff. I can still leave it to guide if I want, but then I still need to change it here to hair so I can use the clustering. But I know at this point I'm happy with, I'm not gonna edit further, so I use the hair, and then I did all the modifiers on top, all this, and that will lead to the clustering, and then the strain detail, which I used 50 is enough for a short like this length, and then render and stuff. So this is the render setting. This I think quite simple. The only parameter you need to care is the radius, and you can read this at the manual, and also play around with this curve. Do a lot of test render. You can see this will make the tip thicker, and then this will be needed when you render with the with VRay. Anyways, once up to this point, I think that's about everything I wanna. Oh, okay. So at this point, when I first when I was doing the project, right, I thought I wanna still go to guide with a 60K in the view. For example, if I do this, but even the computer that I used didn't allow me, so I had to duplicate this. Okay, so I clone this hair base, and then I let me show you the hair detail. So the hair base and hair uncombed, and then let me just unfreeze that one and just freeze this back. Okay, once I duplicated this, see how it's very similar up to like this point, right? Well, actually up to this point. So see how this, and it's still at guide, compared to that one is already on hair, and then I did the same. So basically up to, I believe, this point, it's like very similar, and then I probably changed a little bit the numbers, and then I edited further. I deleted, like, here I was only like showing 10,000. Remember, you can't change the number below it. You can add you can change the topmost, but you can't change the number. But anyways, so I duplicated it. I went with a number that my viewport can handle, and then I hand edit this. Okay, so if I go backtrack one modifier, okay, see how I deleted some there, and then what did I do here? Oh, there you go. I make this. So the idea is just looking at a bunch of reference photos and try to replicate this by hand. So that's how. And okay, perhaps okay, here I guess oh, I deleted more. See, I didn't add, but I delete. You can delete, but you can't add. Okay, and you can't change the number below. Anyway, sorry, I keep mentioning it that. Anyways, delete more. That's it. And then this is adding, making sure that it's a 50, because I think the last number was what? Is it? Oh, the last number was like 10. See? Oh no, this is a planting. But anyways, just before the render, I did one just to make sure that it renders smoothly. Probably it shows in my render setting that render test that it wasn't that smooth. It's like, for example, here. But this is probably some brushing, but it doesn't have to be like perfectly smooth as well. Some are like a bit segmented like this. It's okay as long as it looks complex enough to pass as looking realistic. But anyways, that's the way to do the base and the uncombed. Really, these two are the only the complex one. The others are really straightforward. Like for example, the neck back, this part is really very simple. Grow 100, only that much, edit it. So let's see what I did. Okay, just just like that. See, making it flow downwards. Grow 800 of them, which is enough, and then perform some editing. And this is still at guides. So see, if I don't need any clustering, I don't use it. And see how I still edit it further, like final touch there, that's it, and it's ready to rock. Excuse me. So that's it. The mustache, everything is pretty much okay. There, I baked this. I guess you can bake. Hold on one second. Let me just. But let me warn you before doing like this bake and stuff. Save. Okay. I'm not gonna save over this file, but you can do it. Just make sure, actually, to, like, collapse to like a there you go, then it's baked. But try to save your file, do a, like, save as before, something like that, and then edit further. That's it. Simple, right? Everything else is simple. The only everything else is really simple. The only thing that I wanna mention is just that, let me okay, like, start with 100. Like, for example, this is stair, and then, like, for example, the next subdivision level will be like 500 guides, and then I would suggest try one more to, like, really finesse it, and then this is your, like, render hair, like, probably, I don't know, 100,000 or 80,000, whatever. And the viewport can be like, 10% of them is more than enough. And here is, like, no if you want to perform, sorry, if you want to perform, I'm running out of space, but sorry, like clustering. Sorry, this is just to recap. Then you keep it at hair type, but these all are like guide type, so you can edit guide. That's all. The workflow that I think is useful. So don't go like from here then render. It's not gonna work. There's gonna be a lot of penetration issue and all and everything, and it's actually harder to work. So imagine let's even imagine, like, this also don't work, because there's too much discrepancy, like difference between like 100 to 8,000, 80,000, sorry, from 100 or 500 to, like, 80K. There's just way too much difference, too many difference. But if you take it gradually from 100 to 500 to 3,000, and then this is easier to spot any problems and any penetration. So really, I keep saying penetrating geometries, because that's mostly what hair problem that I have to remove it, because you definitely don't want to see some hair strands coming out from I don't know where. It's gonna be it's gonna be visible. Anyways, so that's how I done my styling. We're almost at the end of okay, explain, right? So we're done with the styling. There's nothing else. The others are really simple. The hair fast, probably people don't do this much, but this adds like the finale that I mentioned earlier in this video. Still very simple to do. This one, okay, this one is an example of from like very little number to like a quick like for example here I'm showing I'm showing 20,000 because I need to cover everywhere, and then there's a, and then I edit it like usual. Okay, just brushing it down. Maybe this is maybe like 5 minutes. Just pull it down, and then here is the example where I go straight from 20,000 to a million. Okay, so this is like 20,000 to like 1 million, which is like, for example, like a 200, then goes straight to like 100K, something like that. It's like one level operation. Okay, and why? Because I'm not concerned with any penetration here, because this is like just very short, and I plan to render it in different paths, so I can remove the offending areas, or if it's too whatever, it's in a separate render pass anyway. So this is the only example I want to show you guys. You can just jump straight to from one level to the final render level, but definitely for the hair base, don't want to do that for sure. Okay, so let's just continue for the last part, which is the shading. Okay, right guys, before I move on to the final section of the video, which is the VrayHairMtl, I just want to point out one thing I forgot, but it's very important, which is the limitations of the technique that I've been showing you guys with the guide to hair to guide method and all this editing the strand, like each strand. It's really I mean, it makes sense if it's for still frame only. I don't think it work. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work for animation. I don't do, I've never done animation with Ornatrix dynamics and stuffs, but I'm pretty sure it's not gonna work. But for still frame, I think it's a good I mean, you got a lot of control. So also one thing is the maximum number of guides, the viewport limit. If you remember, let me just close this. Oops, sorry for 1 second. Okay, so I was experiencing like a viewport limit, especially for the hair base. This is the most amount in a single part of the hair. So my final render number is 60,000, right? I remember when I was doing my test, I wanted to like bake, like edit guides on a 30,000 number, but then this is the limit that I reached, and then when I went further, I couldn't. And then, I wish if I can go 60,000, and probably I would edit on top, and then just use the technique that I've been showing. But the view count won't let me, so that's why I was said the viewport won't let me. So just a little heads up there. Oops. Okay, there's a bit of a hiccup there. Oh, okay. The viewport, if I hit 60,000, it can handle it, but when I add an edit guide, it just not doing. And I tried a lot of stuff like, you know, collapsing, baking, but still, probably it's just probably it's not intended that way, but just, you know, just to point that out, that there's that limitation. Okay, so let's just continue to the hair material, the V-Ray hair material. Okay, got these loaded, and with this out of the way, let's just minimize this, and we will talk about all these. These are all my hair materials. There's probably an easier way to show it like this. Let's just close these. Okay, so starts from here, the one that has an OX, which is the eyebrow left, dark. The second one is the right, dark, all the way to the mustache, which is this one. Okay, so it's all listed here. Hey guys, sorry for the cut. So I was saying, I probably not gonna explain each parameters, just the ones that I think I used or I found interesting. But anyways, well, this the V-Ray hair material really is, to me, at least to me personally, I think it's quite a simple material, but then at the same time it's also a powerful material, and what I mean by that, it reacts to the V-Ray light really well. As I mentioned earlier in this video, you don't have to, like, you know, do separate, you know, standard material, standard light rigs at the same position, and then use its own you know, the hair material, you know, use, like, you know, hair systems, shadow systems and stuff. So it just works well in the it just works like, you know, like a unified system in the V-Ray, if it's all V-Ray. Anyways, so excuse me, let's just probably look at some of these. You can definitely, for sure, you have to, you know, read the manual and have a look. So okay, let's start with let's just look at this list here, and I probably just, you know, very quickly tell you guys which goes where. Like, you know, this eyebrow left obviously goes to the left, and then remember there's the dark one and the brighter one. It's not very visible here, but it was in the reference photo, if you remember. Anyways, and then this was like split into left and right, and they're both they're for the dark ones, but for the left and the right. But because I think when I was doing my test render, the right one looks a bit darker or something. But anyways, they just, when I did my test render, it's just one looks darker and one looks brighter. If you can see here, this one looks a bit darker, so I have to you know, adjust it per lighting. That's why I split it. But it's not other than that, they're basically like, I think the exact same parameters, other than the you know the diffuse. Yeah, but anyways, it's just to control, to finesse the look. Anyways, so there's the eyebrow white, of course, and then the eyelashes, they are somewhat transparent. I think it's got but anyways, let's see. I'll get into this VRay hair info in a minute, which I mentioned also in earlier in this video. It's from, I borrowed the technique from Michael McCarty. So that's just for the eyelashes. The chin is this yellow one, and if you look at the shader preview here, I want it to look a bit, shinier compared to the others, so they stand out a little bit because there are only a handful of them. And then this fuzz face, if you notice here also, it's like, much more transparent too. So I think it was controlled here, so it's not completely opaque. The other one is just I will get to this, so hold your horses. Anyways, because the fuzz face, I don't want them to be like, really opaque. Just a hint that they're there, but not really jarring, I guess. So this is the hair. This is for the hair base, of course. This is the hair, but just the white part, and this is the mustache. Anyways, excuse me. And we'll probably okay, we'll go over the ones that I found interesting now, but let's just use a fresh VRay hair material. Obviously, preset, you can choose what you think is a good base to start with. I just happen to use the black matte, then I think for everything, but no special reason, because I tweaked pretty much all the while doing a lot of test render. Okay, so the next overall multiplier. Okay, I did use this. If you can see, it's not pure white. The default is pure white. Well, almost pure white, by the way. I thought it's pure white, but anyways, I changed the hue to a warmer color. The reason is, let me show you guys. There's a okay. So this is the reason. So when I was doing my before I started doing the warm version, I was doing the cool version first, and once I got the lighting changed, and then the shader, the skin shader, slightly changed to compensate the warm lighting, and then then I had to get the hair compensate for the drastic light change, right? So if it's just if it's just the same cool hair shader, it looks like there's a slight gray blue tint, which looks really a bit weird. So the overall multiplier here basically just shift everything towards warm, obviously with a bit of a multiplier. Remember that, because it says here So don't go too, dark in terms of the value, because you'll darken and saturate your hair that way. But in this, I just keep the I just move the shift the saturation a little bit, and so in one single can't let me just still have that problem with double click. So with one simple parameter, you can go from, like, slightly blue, slightly cool hair to warm hair. So I found that simplifies, it cuts a lot of time. Otherwise I have to go to each of these, there are 9 of them, and then I have to change the diffuse, change the copy, and then paste to the other one, and stuff. So it cuts a lot of time. So that's what the overall multiplier does. Okay, and opacity, obviously, the best use for it is for the opacity mapping. This is kind of like for in the hair and fur, the standard hair and fur that comes with Max. It's like a tip fade in one of the parameters. So this is the best use, which was demonstrated in the video by Michael McCarty, and but then in its own, without the technique that I was going to Michael McCarty stuff, in its own, you can, it's like a opacity shader in the standard. But if you notice, if you in the basic standard material, if you drag downwards, meaning opacity lower, it just more transparent, less opaque. But in the VRay, both the VrayHairMtl and the standard VRay, they don't work that way. See, if I pull this down, it's still like before, it's still as opaque as before. And it's the same thing with just a little tip here with the basic VRay material. If I can load that, okay, go to here and see, it's still nothing happens, because this opacity, both for the VRay, whenever it says this opacity, it actually has to be driven by a map. So probably the easiest way, you can just get a VRay color map. Okay, so, and then once it's this is 50%, and see how it starts getting transparent, less opaque. And if I drop it further, see, okay, so this value of RGB20, I don't know how it relates to the percentage of 0 to 257, but anyways, that's how you have to control it by if you find this slider it's not working, then you gotta remember it's driven by map. So if I start to decrease this, you can see, there you go, the hair starts to so this is what I did basically here. Okay, basically here, how I control is slightly transparent too. Okay, so there's a little know-how about the opacity, but and then okay, let's, while we're at it, let's just show how this thing works. I mean, by the tip fade thing. Okay, so in the opacity map slot, you put a hair info texture. Okay, and right away you can see, you know, it starts doing, you know, some fading, but then because this is like a gradient, like a gradient from A to B, black to white, and then with like a half, like a almost like a linear. But then okay, one tip: if you find this like ball kind of hard to read, if you change it to a cylinder type, then you will definitely see it's much easier to see. And then so all these I changed them to the cylinder type, because for all of them anyways, because it's easier to see, of course, right? And then obviously you notice this is flipped, so have to swap it. So this is the root is here. Okay, and then this bias is just like, you know, if it's at 1 and then it goes completely black, I think go down, and then at 0 it goes completely opaque, kind of like, you know, nothing before. And then see how this is now, you get to see, read it really easily. Don't worry about this. It's probably like a seed is always a randomization thing. Okay, so and then that's it. The tip fade is that simple. And then there are a couple options in terms of the output mode here. These two, I guess, if you use hair and fur, never used it before. This one is like random by strand index. It's kind of like if you guys used hair farm before, they have the hue. I forgot the name for it, but they have, like, you know, random hue for the hair color. So I used this in one of these. Let me find. I guess it's in the hair base too, in the diffuse, and then random by strand index. So, like, you know, each strand will have this randomization. So, and you can even randomize it further by putting the color A, another random, and so on and so forth. So not just for like position along strand. This is like for, you know, each the strand length, each length. Excuse me for 1 second. Hey guys, sorry about that. So I was saying, so the randomization, you have two options here, one for length and one for, you know, the each strand random color. So sorry, excuse me for 1 second, my cursor is not updating. Okay, there you go. And obviously you can put it, you know, since they're mapped, I found it useful as well in the diffuse to give each strand some random color as well. So anyways, let's move on with the basics. So we got that cylinder thing, got that in the opacity mapping, tip fade. For the diffuse, these are definitely need, you know, a lot of render tests per case. For the specular as well, this is the amount, and then this is the glossiness. Obviously pretty straightforward. Please do read the manual, of course. Then this one, the secondary specular, is like, it's 2 layers of specularity. You can lock it to transmission. This is the transmission is kind of like the scattering function. And then you can control all these are they're pretty straightforward. They need a lot of test renders to get what you the look that you want. So we'll skip all this. Nothing very special. But then here, alright, this is pretty important part. Let me just very briefly explain what these are. Okay, so the first one, the opaque for shadows, by default it's turned off. And what it means is, if you click this, if you tick this, you check this, it means you want your shadow to be opaque, meaning not transparent. And this will speed up rendering, but it's not the result's not gonna be very realistic. If your shadow is fully fully black, for example, then it's not gonna look good. You need slightly transparent shadow. So same for the opaque for GI. You want like slightly, because hair is very thin, and then light, when it hits it, it's so thin it's almost like transparent, at least in terms of, excuse me for 1 second. Hey guys, sorry for the cut. So simplify for GI, by again, this will, if you click this, will speed up rendering, but then since by default it's not it's not on, so I left it off. And then the next one, use case GI. Oh, this one is pretty useful. Okay, so I ended up unchecking this use case GI for every one of them, for all the hair. And the reason is, this will slow down the rendering, and it slowed down quite a lot, but it's just the result is just much more realistic. It's in the manual here, it says, if it's enabled, the hair will always be calculated by brute force. So that explains the speed hit. But when I did my test rendering, I realized that the very reason I wanted, I basically disabled it, so I don't use the case GI, is it helps add a lot of realism. I mentioned earlier in this video, I was gonna touch on this one, and this is sort of like the result that I got from this one. Okay, let me just briefly explain. A hair, right, especially in terms of like the specularity, see how it's kind of noisy. It's not the specularity is, oops, second, can zoom it quite close. Okay, okay, sorry, it's a bit silly, this PDF thing, but patience. Okay, so if you notice, the one thing that I found in some hair rendering is that the hair looks very, the specularity is very very shiny, and then they're not like this, they're not broken like this one is, like like this, it's like broken, and this is very realistic looking. And then in one of, like very early discussion, I didn't save it unfortunately, but it was very early in the hair farm discussion, how they put a bump in this in the shader, some little noise, and then they end up getting this look. And then that's really add a lot to the realism. And then basically when I realized when I was doing my test render, when I unchecked this, okay, and then I got this very look, because the explanation, I guess, is I use brute force, and probably when there's not enough subdivision for my test render, at least I get this like broken, noisy look, and that's where I get from this. So I ended up unchecking this for everything, and to me it adds a lot to the realism, but definitely there's a speed hit. So just some heads up there. Other than that, these are all like maps. Let me just probably go through some like this one is just the opacity mapping, the tip fade thing. But then there's these which has in the diffuse channel. Okay, for example, this one is quite interesting. I think I did a mix with a okay, I remember this one. There's a mix with a with a mask. Let me just show you what the mask looks like. Excuse me for 1 second. It's the hair base. Okay, bear with me for 1 second. Just go all the way down, and just very quickly flip this. Oops. Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, there's this mask that there you go. This is very clear here. If you notice, this part of Stan's hair is kind of dark color, and then this part has become pure white. The area above the ears. So I got that from using this mix, basically masking this one. Yes, okay. Mixing the first and the second, with the dark majority, which is like this part, and then the white majority, which is this one. And then in here there's still some randomization. So it's just basically this is just for this case, obviously not for every case. I just want to show it to you guys that this is possible. So very simple, just playing with the shaders, and see how it's got the random by strand color, and I can definitely random it further, and then that's how I control the bias. So for the dark majority, I want the majority of them dark, so it bias towards the color A. If you saw this earlier, like that, right? And if it's higher than 0.5, then it goes the bias towards the color B. So just playing around with the shader, but I thought it's pretty interesting. And here is just the white majority. It's the same thing, instance. So this is the hair white part. Okay, this is for the uncombed, I guess. I just use the same thing, just the whitest one. Then the mustache is also white majority. So a lot of things reused. Okay, and I guess that's all there is to it. Quite simple, but still it's very powerful. Just have to play around with it. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want. Definitely I have fun making the videos, and I'll definitely do probably other making of if I complete another personal project. Okay, and I hope I gave all the proper credits where credits are due. And with that said, you can probably find me in the forums by this username, and then if you have questions or comments, if you think my technique is wrong and it's not working for you or whatever, you can probably leave it in the each part's comment video here in YouTube, and then so that I can reply, and then other people can probably read it, and then it's probably become a useful discussion, or so that I don't have to answer repeating comments, I guess, if there's any. Anyways, with that said, thank you for watching, and hope to see you next time. Cheers, bye bye.